Maybe. Okay. Hi.
Paavo.
That's a
Agata.
nice t-shirt, Paul. Where'd you get that?
This one I can't remember. Probably one of the photo shoots at some point. Somewhere.
It's very nice.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So it's great to. Sir? Yeah.
Thank you.
So who is going to make the start?
Okay. It starts.
Okay. So.
Prestiż MJM przedstawia.
Great to have you here, and we are going to talk today mostly about your newest album, The Common Ground, and we've prepared those questions together with the Polish fan club of yours. And the first, what they would like to ask is like, right after you released The Common Ground, you've started your American tour and you have visited so many places in such a short time because it was just only 2 months. And how do you recall this tour after the time? Was there anything special, any special place, feeling, happenings there?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We've been playing in America since 2004, I think.
Oh.
So pretty much since the beginning of our DJ career, we've been going there. And slowly we've been working our way from the major markets to the secondary markets. And when we do one of these tours, we're on buses, so we're sort of taking our own show with us, our own equipment with us. And what we can do is, on the midweek days, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, go to somewhere really small and really tiny, some place that, you know, we would normally, tourists would never go. And those shows in some ways become the most special because you end up being in these tiny little towns with these old theatres, and we take our enormous production into those theatres, and you get the feeling that the size of show that we take with us is something that they've never seen before in some of those little towns. And whether it was I can't remember the name of the theatre in Detroit that we went to. Actually, that was.
With John Arms.
Oh right, that was one. I think that was one of my favourites. One of the songs on Common Ground is called Northern Soul. It's about Detroit, and it was in some ways quite a contrived song. We've been going to Detroit for quite some time, and it's obviously a town with an amazing musical heritage. Tamla Motown and lots of other great soul labels were in Detroit, and techno came from Detroit. So you know, it has that heritage, but it's been undergoing a bit of a transformation because the car industry there kind of collapsed, and the city collapsed, went from 5 million people to 500,000 people. Mm-hmm. There's large swathes of the city that are empty now. That are, you know, buildings have been knocked down. Some of the houses in the housing estates have been turned into farms, which is a thing that we got involved with a few years ago. So it's a place with a lot of history for us. And so we wrote this song about it, and playing that song in that city was a really special moment in one of the most beautiful theatres in America, I think. It was a really, really very special show, and seeing people sing it in that town, that was great. But we get so many places. I remember in New York. Sorry to keep going on, Paul.
This is great.
The production had been at a couple of shows before that I hadn't seen.
Okay.
And I think my first show was New York, and we had some new lasers, and I was on stage when they came on. I had never seen them before, and that was like wow for me, you know, to see a part of the show, obviously from stage, but it was a very magical experience. I think we managed to raise the bar of the production on the tour, and it was really great fun to get out in front of it every night or behind it and perform for people.
Soon you will start the European tour promoting the common ground, which includes also Warsaw. And during your tour in United States, we realized that you've presented quite a new version of your tracks. And should we expect the same for the European tour, or you've prepared something extra for us?
Well, where we are right now is obviously, we made the album versions of the common ground tracks, and then our next thing was really to try and get as many playable club versions of those as possible. So we've been sort of bringing those on board during the North American tour. Now our sort of thoughts are already in the ABGT 300 for September, and we've been in various studios writing new material. We also had some vocal tracks that we couldn't quite finish for Common Ground that we're hoping to get ready for ABGT 300. So when we come to Warsaw here, I'm sure we're going to be in an incredible situation, because we would have just got everything ready for ABGT 300.
Right.
There's always stuff that we can't fit into that set. And already I think this year's been musically amazing. There's been just so much stuff from our label artists and new versions of our own tracks. So it's been a musically very exciting year. So come October, it's going to be great.
Okay, so what would you say to the people who didn't have the chance to listen to your newest album? Is like, how would you describe it, and what is that about, and what kind of message it brings with it?
The thing that's unique about Common Ground is, I believe it's the first album where all of the singers that we have worked with over the years were together on one album. So we had a project with a singer called Justine Suissa for years, which was called Ocean Lab, and I think while we were doing the acoustic tour last year, we brought her in to perform, in those gigs, and I think we've always felt over the years that Ocean Labs is us, obviously, and part of the Above and Beyond family, but we'd never actually had Justine on an Above and Beyond album before. Mm-hmm. So we decided to make this album the one where she finally becomes part of Above and Beyond. Richard Bedford, who had decided after group therapy to go off and do his own thing and write his own songs and perform them, we managed to persuade him to come back and sing our songs again, so he was back in the fold. And Zoe Johnston, who's been with us since 2006, I think, is also on there, and it's also the first album where Jono gets to sing a song. So I think that was the major changes from the last album we did. I think we always try and move the music forward. We're always learning about how to write songs and produce and make music, and I think we're doing that better than we've ever done it. And I think the songs on the album are very strong, and they include, as I said, all of the family in one place for the first time. So
as we are talking about the songs, if any of the songs of this album is your favorite one, and why?
Well, it kind of, at least for me, it keeps changing all the time. So I remember when we were like writing the song, the Common Ground outro was for me one of those sort of inspired moments that sort of happened on a poolside in India. But then now that the album's out and we've had more time with it, I've been really loving, Northern Soul's become such a big track for us. Is It Love, 1001, I really like. Cold Feet, I really like. So I don't know, it's like asking me to pick my favorite child,
okay.
I don't know. I love them all, but for different reasons.
Different way. And what about you?
I think before the album came out, I was really excited about Sahara Love, just because it was so different from stuff that we'd done before, and it sort of turned out pretty much how it was meant to sound, which often tracks on the album don't do that. But then, from out of nowhere, Always became a very special track. In the last few weeks of producing the album, it changed quite a bit from where it had been in the demo stage, and I just sort of fell in love with it, and I think we all fell in love with it at the time, which is why we decided to put it out as a single, even though it's got no drums on it and it's not really a dance track. And right now, I think the way the club mix of it has turned out, again, that's a very strange club mix. It's the only club mix I think I've ever heard where the middle eight is the peak moment in the track. That's a part of a song which we normally throw away when we make the club version. But for some reason, some weird reason, we've managed to put the entire song in this club version, which makes it a little bit long, but I'm loving that at the moment. I love that song.
Three-State, Group Therapy, We Are All What We Need, Common Ground, those are the names of your albums you've released so far. And what you were guided to by choosing this name for these albums is like, what brings you that idea, and are they connected with each other in some way?
Well, obviously they're connected with each other just because they're like little time slices of our lives, I suppose, from over the last 18 years. But the way we come up with the names, there's always a moment in the album writing process where we just start making lots of tracks, and then we look at this batch of tracks and we start thinking, is there like a common theme? You know, where's our heads at? What's happening in the world at the moment? So, you know, I think all of those have been the result of a bit of a brainstorm at that point in the album where we've already had quite a lot of material. I think Tri-State was probably the one that we sort of came to quickest in a way. And then Where All We Need was obviously the track of that opening, the name of the opening track that we all really felt strongly about. Common Ground, that name sort of came from this thing that we'd been doing at shows, which was this idea that, you know, the world can feel quite a divided place at the moment.
Yes.
But music is one of those uniting things where, you know, when people come to these shows, they can believe in lots of different things, but music really unites us all, and the Common Ground idea sort of stemmed from that. We sort of took it a little bit further and called it Common Ground. But all those albums, get their names in sort of different ways. But I like the fact that they represent really, you know, what we are standing for, music.
And now less about the music, more about you. Besides music, do you have any other hobbies, or what do you like to do in your free time? Because I guess you are really busy, so what do you do in your free time between traveling and events?
Well, I like, you know, swimming in frozen lakes. It's been my recent big hobby that I've really gotten into. I've been this year doing a lot of yoga and meditation. I'm really into photography. So I've been really trying to find ways to almost like slow down. I think a lot of our life is very hectic and so much is going on. So for me, like going to the nature and slowing down is really important. I'm a little bit of an introvert and find myself a little bit overwhelmed by this everything. So those things really help. So that's what I'm trying to do.
What about you?
My major hobby outside above and beyond is music. I'm actually in another band as well called Sad Lovers and Giants. We make miserable rock music, and we're
great miserable rock music.
And we're in the process of mixing our 9th album at the moment. I love to scuba dive, but don't really get the time to do it. Although I did do some scuba diving in Bali a couple of weeks ago, swam with manta rays, which was incredible. And I also try and play golf when I can, but again, don't get much time to do that.
And the last one, we are in Poland, and about Poland. What do you associate with Poland, and do you have any memories, nice memories of our country? Do you know any Polish artist, food or words?
Well, we've obviously been coming to Poland for a really long time, and like I have these sort of blurry memories of you know, this.
Time to refresh it.
These kind of sort of quite rock and roll like venues where I felt like things could break at any point, and there's always been this crazy energy at Polish parties, and one other thing that I always associate with Poland is that us in Finland, we've got crazy surnames, like mine is Siljamaki, and I always thought that that's difficult, and then some of my Polish friends can outdo my surname when we try to spell theirs. It's always more complicated, so I think I'm sort of fascinated by the Polish spelling of names.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's an awful lot of Polish people in the UK. My brother lives with a lovely Polish girl called Beata. And I think, we, as Paavo says, we've been coming here for quite a long time, but we've not been here quite so much recently. So I'm glad that we've got the date tonight and the one in October to look forward to, because it's always fun to come here. There's a lot of energy in the audience. And I had a lovely trip to Poland a few years ago when I was working with one of our artists, Krzysztof Pekiewicz, I think is his name. Nitrous Oxide is his artist name. And I came over to help him finish his album that he put out on Angina Beats a few years ago. And he very kindly put me up in his house, and I had a lovely dinner with traditional dinner with his family and friends, and ate a lot of sausages, I remember.
Yes.
So, it's always a lovely place to come to. I mean, I think where we're staying and the square that we went, shows how well the country's doing, which is great to see. And I can't wait for tonight, actually.
And I cannot wait for the October.
Subskrybuj kanał prestiżemjm.tv, by być na bieżąco. Wejdź na bilety.imprezyprestiż.com i zakup bilet na wymarzony koncert.